Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we're going to have a look at the latest on the live radar, run for the UKV, have a look at the precipitation and the temperature over the next 5 days, as we have got pretty abysmal autumnal conditions through the rest of Saturday and then for some through Sunday and Monday. However, as we head into the middle of next week, things are going to improve quite substantially, especially across eastern parts. It does look like higher pressure is going to be building in, and it is going to be building in with above average air masses, which does mean those temperatures are going to rise pretty significantly next week. From the latest UKV looking like maybe 28, 29 degrees, or maybe even an isolated 30, which is pretty hot for the end of August. This does look like it could continue into early September from the latest longer range runs, which do continue higher pressure and above average temperatures into the beginning of meteorological autumn. So even though it's looking pretty horrible at the moment, it does look like we're now into autumn, even though it still is technically summer. Things are going to be turning a bit more summery next week and could stay like that for a few weeks from the looks of the latest longer range charts. So do remember, if you enjoy videos, make sure you like and subscribe. And remember to follow me on Twitter as well, the link's in the description. Now, if you start on the live radar, you can see the abysmal conditions we've seen earlier through Saturday. Recording this around 3:30, 4, and most of that heavy rain in the east is starting to clear, but we've still got lots of drizzle, thick clouds and showers further northwards lingering, meaning that today looks like pretty much a write-off in terms of anything particularly pleasant. Now, initially we thought this precipitation was going to clear around lunchtime, but it's been slightly delayed. It's taken a little bit longer to clear, and these things happen, and unfortunately it means that it's now 4 p.m. and we're still seeing rain falling quite widely across eastern parts of England, and then showers which were expected across Scotland, Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. Now, if we do zoom in across the eastern portion, we do have some very heavy rain that's now clearing out into the North Sea. It was really heavy through this morning. We did see yellow warnings issued, which have now expired. Behind the weather front, we've got little squall features developing, which were forecasted in the models, but we did expect them to move through a little bit quicker around lunchtime, as I said. But still some darker greens and some yellows and reds here, so still some heavy rain in places, just not a wall of rain like we have seen through this morning. Further northwards and westwards, it's not actually too bad across much of North England, Wales, southwest England, into southern Scotland, but then we head into the showers streaming off the Atlantic, and here again pretty heavy and blustery where these do move through. Now, do look at the temperatures. You can see it isn't great today, probably the worst conditions we've had in a while, and that is because of all this cool, fresh air coming in off the Atlantic and the rain and cloud. But just look to our east across Netherlands, Belgium, much of France and Germany, especially into southern and eastern Europe. It is hot. Temperatures well in excess of 30 degrees, getting up towards the mid to high 30s in places. And unfortunately, we are on the lower pressure side of the pattern. Higher pressure across Europe, low pressure across the UK, and that means we're in the fresh westerly winds, whereas much of Europe is still under some very hot air. Fortunately though, this higher pressure is going to be nudging in for the UK into next week, and this is what's going to bring potentially the hotter weather. So even though we're not seeing it at the moment, this pattern looks like it could be extending towards the UK next week. The extent of that higher pressure, especially longer term, is still very uncertain, but it is looking pretty positive, at least for next week. And finally, from the live radar, if we do have a look at the past 24-hour precipitation, we have to see all that heavy rain that's fallen across many parts of southern and eastern England. And you can see most of the British Isles have seen some heavy rain over the past 24 hours. Luckily, it is going to reduce to almost zero by the middle of next week, but still more rain to come in places. Now, if you go head over to the latest UKV, you can see all that rain spreading through this morning, slowly clearing through the afternoon, and you can see as we head into Sunday, it's a little bit better in those rainy areas in the south and the east, but still those showers, potentially some more persistent rain into northern England, Scotland and Northern Ireland. So yes, for many, escaping the persistent rain, but still some around through Sunday. And then as we head into Monday, showers are around during the day, but if we're being honest, it's looking much better. The winds will be veering more from a southerly direction, so temperatures will be more widely into the low 20s. By Tuesday, things are looking even better. Yes, some heavier rain overnight and some lingering rain across northern England, Republic of Ireland, Northern Ireland, and Scotland. And this is because the weather front gets trapped because this low is trying to move in, but the high pressure across Europe is now extending in and it's stopping the progression of the low pressure. And unfortunately, it's stalling this weather front at least for a time. But to the south of this, warm and dry, temperatures into the mid-20s, and then really start to see improving conditions on Wednesday, where it becomes more widely dry, still some showers around in the north and west, but more isolated, and the temperatures will rise significantly. Now, if you look at the mean sea level pressure, you can see westerly winds at the moment. That looks like it's going to persist through much of the rest of today, through Sunday, and even lasting into Monday there. But as we head into Tuesday, the wind veers more southwesterly or southerly, and that is allowing that higher pressure to build in these reds and pinks to our east. That's higher pressure extending in, and you see it starting to dominate as we head into Wednesday and Thursday. Still low pressure trying to come in off the Atlantic. That is something we need to keep an eye on, because there is still uncertainty whether these low pressures could nudge in between and among the higher pressure. That could put a bit of a spanner in the works with more thunderstorms, maybe some isolated, unsettled weather at times, but generally that high pressure looks like it's going to build in, and we'll be able to have a much better look at it on the longer range runs in a minute. If we do put on the upper air temperatures with this as well, you see fresh westerly winds, pretty chilly conditions. Yes, there will be some warmer air masses at times, but if we're being completely honest, it's not going to be particularly warm even when we see a decent air mass because of the rain and cloud. But it's as we head into Tuesday, upper air temperatures rise quite significantly, mid-teens perhaps in the south and the east, and those upper air temperatures remain into Wednesday as well. Could be slowly slipping away into Thursday, and that's because of that low pressure system trying to push in, but still it is above average here even by Thursday, just not quite as above average as it was during Tuesday and Wednesday. Now, if you look at the max temperatures, you can see through Saturday afternoon, so today temperatures nudging 20 degrees at best, but most in the teens, so pretty abysmal really compared to what we've had recently, where it's been widely in the low 20s most days, and for summer in general. As we head into Sunday, slight improvements, more towards the high teens or touching 20 degrees, but only subtle improvements. I think the best things will be that it's more dry weather will be around. As we head into Monday, conditions do improve substantially, 22 or 23 in many eastern areas, and even for central northern areas could be nudged towards 20 degrees. And then look at Tuesday, temperatures more widely into the mid-20s, 25, 26 for much of England and Wales. And then finally into Wednesday, again looking at low to mid-20s for many, and could top the high 20s in the east. 28 degrees on the UKV today. Yesterday it was showing 29. I wouldn't be surprised if we flirted with 30 degrees somewhere come next week. So looking much warmer, much hotter as we head into next week. And even though these temperatures don't look amazing on paper compared to conditions we saw a couple of weeks ago or during July and June, for late August into early September, anything above 25 degrees is pretty decent indeed. And this is because we are reducing the upper air temperatures. Slowly those upper air temperatures to our south are getting cooler as we do descend towards autumn and winter, and we have shorter days in terms of sunlight, so it doesn't allow as much heating to take place. So 28 degrees in late August, early September is like a 32 probably in early July for kind of a deviation from average or expected temperatures. So even though it doesn't look exceptional compared to what we've seen, it is pretty warm indeed for this time of the year, and we expect these conditions could hold on into early September. Now, if you have a look at the longer range start on the latest GFS, you can see the westerly winds coming in over the coming days. We saw this on the UKV, looking very similar, but that southerly wind builds in. So you can see lots of high pressure and heat across Europe that kind of hangs around, and that high pressure re-extends back into northern and western Europe, encapsulating the UK. And you can see into Thursday here, we do see brief breakthrough of lower pressure for a time, but then it does get sent northwards and high pressure takes back over. So for a time later next week, there could be some showers in the west, could be some slightly fresher conditions, but we're still expecting warm conditions in the south and the east. And then eventually high pressure builds back in for next weekend and kind of holds on for the majority of the rest of this run. About 384 hours, a big area of high pressure extending in. The only caveat is the wind direction is still more of a flat westerly here because the higher pressure is extending from the Azores and not from the Mediterranean. So a slightly different origination of that higher pressure means if we put on the upper air temperatures, it's warm, but it's nothing exceptional. And you can see that on the temperature deviation. It is above average, but only around 4 to 6 degrees above average instead of maybe 8 to 10 degrees or even 12 degrees above average if that wind direction was a southeasterly instead of a west to southwesterly like it is here. So little subtle differences like that could affect the temperatures, but I think most people would just generally be happy with higher pressure, temperatures still in the low to mid 20s or maybe even slightly higher. But the GFS today looking pretty decent, a few blips in there with some fresher Atlantic conditions coming in at times, especially perhaps during the middle of next week if we actually do run to next Thursday. You can see slightly fresher conditions come in for a time for a couple of days before high pressure and warmer air does return. So as I said, could be a little blip, but at the moment the overall trend is looking much the same. If we do compare to the latest GEM, again, westerly flow coming in at the moment, high pressure extending in, that low pressure trying to nudge in by Thursday, has a bit of success but really fills out, and then high pressure makes a return all the way to day 10, and again showing a bit more of an Azores high extension at day 10 instead of a Mediterranean or European high. Again, could just affect where that air is coming from and could have downstream effects on those surface temperatures longer range. As you can see, the wind direction is more westerly, so it's more likely to bring in slightly cooler air masses in the Atlantic than warmer, hotter air masses towards the southeast. So still would be decent, still could see warm, dry conditions, but just might cut out the risk of anything hotter. And finally, if we look at the latest ECMWF, again, westerly wind at the moment, high pressure builds in to our east across much of the middle of next week. That low pressure has a time where it nudges through Thursday, Friday, and then high pressure returns, a really strong area of high pressure actually. You see those darker red showing really quite a lot of strength in that higher pressure. And it is actually building in with some very warm air. The 15 degree isotherm is moving in, and I wouldn't be surprised here to see temperatures, as I said, into the mid to high 20s perhaps. And again, these are midday temperatures, would be higher around the 2 or 3 p.m. point. So yeah, looking pretty decent. I'm not going to lie, from the main three models today. Yes, some blips are in there, and that is expected. We're not expecting 2 weeks of solid sunshine and heat, but definitely looks like there could be quite a lot of that in the next few weeks. And to finish, if we look at the ensemble, see it's below average over the next few days, but generally from around Tuesday onwards, we're above average. Yes, it's kind of oscillating up and down, but generally is looking above average. The precipitation is high on a few days, but mostly it is fairly low, looking showery, but pretty decent indeed. Some very warm air masses are in there, maybe not as many as we were seeing a couple of days ago, but still some very warm air masses in there. So I wouldn't be surprised to see some hot weather at times, but maybe a slightly lower chance now of something like a proper heat wave arriving like we saw last September. Still, the risk is there. There's still some members getting up towards those 15 degree isotherm and above, but I think from the looks of the latest runs, we're more likely to be double digits, 10 to 15 degrees or 50 instead of 15 degrees plus. And I know that doesn't really sound like much of a difference, but those few degree differences at the upper air temperature level could be the difference between 22, 23, 24 at the surface, or 28, 29, 30. So those are the things that we're going to have to iron out over the next few days. And you can see the 2 meter temperatures are looking generally much warmer. Instead of being struggling around the 20 degrees the next couple of days, more widely into the low to mid 20s, and again could be higher 20s at times. If we do finally compare to the ECMWF ensembles, looking broadly very similar. Below average over the next couple of days, big bump into the middle of next week, looking very dry as well. Slight drop there through Thursday, Friday next week, and again that's associated with that low moving through. Precipitation does pick up a little bit, but not too much, and then return back towards above average. So this is that little blip there Thursday, Friday. But the overall trend is still for average, or at least average, but most likely above average temperatures as we head into the start of September. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you have enjoyed. Things will be on the up over the next few days, even though it does look pretty gloomy out there through Saturday and Sunday for some. So do hope you enjoy the bank holiday weekend. Unfortunately, it does look like the good weather, though, will be coming the days after the weekend, unfortunately. But we'll have to wait and see. Hopefully things, as said, do pick up very soon. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.